sustainability is also a major talking point right now in the automotive industry. Technology plays a huge role. Sustainability, for example, I mean, the way that leather is, you know, that material, for example, is produced is very sustainable at the end of the day. It's just a matter of how it is that it's treated. So in Genesis products, for example, I know that it is very generously treated. I don't know if you want to talk about that specifically.
We can briefly. You know, that's a good point, because we are facing at the moment cultures that still want leather, and cultures that don't want leather anymore. They want, and then the kind of key word is to make everybody happy is vegan leather, and vegan leather is kind of like a decaffeinated solution, but it's going to change with the introduction of vegetable oils, and so it will be less synthetic material. It will be a material that will live in the future. This is why I also want to go more and more into the direction of going back to the true luxury. If you go back in the history of the horse carriages, cars didn't have leather inside. The driver, exposed to the elements outside, had leather because he was often getting wet. He had to go. He was getting dirty because he had to repair. He had to do something, intervene with the mechanics. But the people inside were sitting in the most refined textiles and fabrics. And we will go back to this. And this is the right time to basically say goodbye to the leather, not by creating a fake leather, a fake synthetic leather, but just going back to the true sense of luxury, which are the synthetic materials. This said, as we're still using leather, what we notice one thing is, if we use leather, we don't want to throw the parts of the leather we utilize it. So what we're doing, it's utilizing this car, but also in the production cars that we are releasing, is woven leather. So what we take is, we notice about 40% of the leather gets thrown away, because you have your cutting, you have your template for the seat, for the dashboard, and then you have all those small bits that you don't need. What we do is we cut those elements in small bands of leather, and we do weave them, so that we utilize all the rejects of leather, so we don't throw any leather. So if we have to carry on using leather, we don't want to throw it away. So it's a holistic approach in making sure that all the materials we use, and we are going into paper materials, we're going into vegetable materials, we're going into a lot of materials at the moment, and it's a fascinating time, because I always say, you know, when we do a concept car, I always tell the designers, don't start with the sculpture, I want to start with the materials, and let the materials define the shape. And this is something, you know, we're talking about cars designed from the inside out, but that's today, that's nothing new, that's existing. But instead of creating a shape and then covering with 3 different materials, which is absolutely against any concept of sustainability, why don't we utilize the materials that will define the shape of the vehicles? So that's the new part. Let the material live and create.
Excellent. And also technology is playing a huge role as well. I mean, you know, when I was a kid going to auto shows, I would sit down and I would, you know, touch the shifter and the steering wheel and what it was like to see out. And now you go to the IAA and everybody's sitting in the cars touching the screen.
Yes.
So technology is really taking over, and you know, that is also a question of design, a question for design. And there's one in particular element that we saw in the initial film that we showed for the Concept X, and that is the story of the crystal sphere. And the crystal sphere, I love this story, and it's something that I'm really fascinated by. So I would love if you could just tell me how this came to be.
You know, when we approach the electrification, obviously there's some elements that disappear. Some elements that are basically not anymore playing a big role, like sound, like the vibration of the car when you start the engine. For me, the most important issue was, in the design studio, we have this huge hall. We have about, I think probably about 20 design models in one room. It's a huge room. I mean, it's the biggest design studio I've ever had. And we always have some vehicles that are there for the designers to play, to compare, to benchmark. And obviously in the last years we had a lot of electric vehicles in the room. And I'm extremely stressed, because you imagine this room, this huge room, with a lot of people working. And you have those electric vehicles in there, where people come in, play around with the buttons, come out and everything. And I always have this nightmare of somebody pressing on the accelerator and the car basically going into the design studio and hurting people. And I absolutely wanted the designers to work on a solution which would give us a reference when the engine is on and when the engine is off. Because you don't have the sound, you can create a light animation or whatever, but that's never the same. So what happened is, and you will probably see in the film, I think we have a little bit later, but what happened is, when the engine is off, you have this crystal magical sphere which is there. And but as soon as you press the start button, the sphere turns and unveils the driving commands, which automatically means your engine is on, and you have an immediate reference that the engine is on. That was for me one important. It's also getting a bit of the drama that we had before with the sound, transporting it in a new word, in a non-aggressive new word, and having something which again brings a little bit of life. When the car is suddenly reacting, and the GV60, which is, we had it on this car, but the GV60 brings in production already now, and more than that, the GV60 will have a lot of different also interactions with the customer, like the facial recognition, etc., etc. But that is one part which we really enjoy doing it, and I remember the skepticism of a few of engineers when they were looking at this and saying, but you know, it's on the road now.
Exactly. I love that it made it from concept form into a production car, and the production car that it's going to be in is the GV60, and we have a short film on that, which I think we should roll now.